everybody, I am here today to show you how to do an S Swerve. This will be a very simple driving tutorial. Now, an S Swerve is something that I have done before, and it's an important thing to know because if you're in a situation where you're driving and you face an obstruction that takes you by surprise, you can use an S Swerve to get around it. It's called an S Swerve, at least that's what I've been told to call it, because it sort of makes it look like an S. So when you swerve, you're going to sort of swerve in an S pattern. You're going to basically swerve left, right, and then a little bit left again. Now, it's very simple and straightforward. What we're going to do is we're going to start driving on some of these side streets, and we're going to just pretend like an obstruction has popped out onto the road, and we're going to use an S Swerve to avoid that imaginary obstruction. And I'll give you a few simple tips once I've demonstrated it a few times. Let's go ahead. We're going to start driving just over here. Okay, let's move it. Sorry about that noise. That's my son's toys rattling away in the back. So we'll start by going down this street. This is a nice long street. Looks like there's no traffic, so we're gonna go down this street. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna drive. Now let's imagine that an obstruction just pops out onto the road. I'm gonna do this nice and slowly at first. An S Swerve, and I'll do it nice and slowly, would be left around the obstruction, right, and then straighten out. So it sort of looks like an S, almost like a snake sort of pattern. So let's say I wanted to go around this truck, left, right, back in the lane, straighten out, just like that. Okay, so I'm driving on the right side of the road, and the way that I'm doing the S Swerve is by swerving left, right, straighten out, left again, okay? And what we're doing is we're driving in this lane, and I know you can't see the road, but we're driving in basically on the right side of the road, and we're swerving left, then we're going right to go back to where we were, and then we're going left again to straighten the car out. So we're essentially going around the obstruction. Now, because of the nature of the S Swerve, you know, it's a last minute thing. It's like an emergency maneuver. At least that's what I consider it to be. You know, you're not going to really focus so much on signaling and stuff, you know, simply because it's like, boom, you're not going to have time to signal. If you have time to signal, let's say I'm driving and I see an obstruction there and I can swerve around it and I have time to signal, right? You know, if I have adequate time, I can signal, check my mirrors, my blind spots, swerve around. That was just the car sensor telling me that if I don't move or brake, I'm gonna hit the object, because there was an actual car there that I S swerved around. But I mean, it's a simple maneuver. Now I will tell you one thing: the faster that you're going, the more aggressive that your steering has to be. So I was going, you know, 30, 40, probably 45, I don't know, something like that, kilometers an hour as I was doing those S Swerves. If I was going 70 or 80 and the obstruction hit me just as fast, I would have to swerve more aggressively. So right now, if I'm going, let's say, we'll go much slower. There's no one on the streets behind me. If I was going 25, I could go like this. Nice smooth steering like that. But let's say I was going much faster and there's a truck over here. I'll go around this truck that's pulled over. We're going, you know, 58, 60, around that. And I needed to swerve around this truck. I would have to steer much more aggressively. As you can see, the steering is much more aggressive. So another quick thing, I'm just gonna pull over for this because we're about to reach a main street and I don't wanna be doing these S Swerves on a main road. But another quick thing is to note that I have both hands on the wheel, and this is why I always recommend driving with both hands on the wheel as often as you possibly can. If I had to do an S Swerve like this, I would not be able to control the wheel or the car nearly as well as I did. But because I have both hands on the wheel, it allowed me to really get control of the car. Now, another quick note, when I was swerving, when I was doing those S Swerves, you know, what I did was I had a firm grip of the wheel. Like, I'm really gripping this wheel, because you don't want to be doing an S Swerve and then the wheel is like slipping in your hands. No, no, no. That can be very, very dangerous for you and everyone else around you. So instead, I had a firm grip of the wheel. As soon as I noticed that I needed to do the S Swerve, it's like an automatic reaction. When something pops out, you're like, you just grip the wheel. It's a good automatic human reaction to an emergency situation. You really grip down, but you also want to have that flexibility. If my arms are so stiff, I'm not going to be able to S Swerve properly. Instead, I had a firm grip, but I still also remained really flexible. Now with an S Swerve, you're not really turning like this much. For the most part, you know, you're not really turning the wheel like more than 25%, 30% of a turn. Most of the time you're like kind of going like this, let's say, at maximum, I would say. There are some swerves that will require you to really crank that wheel, but the majority of the time, if you've noticed the obstacle or the obstruction, if you notice it and it surprises you, but if it's not like the last possible moment, you could probably get away with swerving a little bit less. So let's just go ahead and we'll do one more just for the sake of argument. So as you can see, look at how much I'm turning the wheel. Two hands on the wheel. We're gonna do an S Swerve right now. As you can see, just like that. about 25%. And I mean, if I had to do a bigger one, let's say like this, maybe a little bit more than 25%, but we're not going and turning the wheel like 35, 40, 50, half a turn. We're not doing that. Most of the time, the S Swerves are going to require you to turn the wheel enough, but the majority of the time, it's going to be nothing like a regular turn on the road, like turning right or left. But that's basically it. In this video, I've shown you how to do an S Swerve. If you like the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down below as a comment. And of course, be sure to subscribe for more great car and driving videos just like this one. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.